left by now.
No, it's not. Oh, he's.
You actually did better than you predicted.
I know, my watch is ahead. I'm trying to be later.
Small coffee by your standards.
I wasn't in charge of it. Okay.
Makes more sense.
It's tight in here.
Kyle, this free agent period, as a coach, I know that these are decisions that are made upstairs, but just how did you take the stuff, all the guys leaving and very few guys coming in?
I anticipated it. I've known it's coming for a while. But no matter what you're anticipating or ready for, it's still not very much fun. Going through it, a lot of guys you care about, a lot of good players to see go, but as part of this business, it happens to everyone at some time, and that's just where we're at right now. We really needed a number 2 blocking tight end. I mean, losing Charlie without, we haven't been able to replace him yet. I thought Eric came in and did some good things for us last year, but for Luke to be available where we got him, price-wise and everything, we thought we got one of the better blockers in this league, and someone who can also bring some stuff in the pass game also.
Does that rule you out for a tight end in the draft? It's supposed to be a good draft at that position this year.
I don't think we're ruled out at really any player, so none of that really rules us out, but definitely helps us going in the draft, having a little bit more depth there.
Kyle, why people like Luke Farrell, who's this guy? Why would they pay a decent amount of money for that? Why is a number 2 blocking tight end so important in your offense?
I think it's one of the critical things in running the ball. To balance out the offensive line. To balance out the 2 sides of the formation. When you have a threat to go to defensive end on both sides of the ball is a big deal. Kittle's really good in pass protection, but you don't always want to use a guy in pass protection who's really good in routes and everything. So having another tight end with the length to block defensive ends is important. So you can double team the inside guys with an O-line and get someone like Kittle out on routes.
When you're going after Mac Jones, do you rehash what happened in 2021? I'm assuming he thought he was coming to the 49ers at number 3 overall. Did you have to address that with him?
No. I talked to him really after we signed him. So, it wasn't, I think he knows what happened. I talked to him a little bit after the draft, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever that was. So, we had a small relationship with him since then, and it's kind of funny to put all that time into him in the draft and to wait 5 years later, but having him on our staff, having him on our team and everything, we're excited about, and excited to get to work with him.
What do you like about it?
I just loved how he played the position, especially in college. He got the ball to the right spots, didn't take sacks, would hang in there and get hit, but distribute the ball to his playmakers, and seen him doing it at the NFL at a high level, and we're excited to get him working in our offense.
For a guy who comes in, as a rookie and starts, what's the mindset now to be the backup? It's a different mindset, isn't it, to be?
Yeah, but I think he went through that last year in Jacksonville, so I think he understands that role. And I think his mindset is just being the best quarterback he can be. When you come in as a backup, you can't always do that on Sunday. You got to be ready every week just in case, because you never know when a guy's going to get hurt. But to come in and get the backup reps, to work with us throughout all these phases in the offseason, to go into training camp, I think he has a chance to improve every day. And from what I hear about him as a worker, I think he will.
Kyle, what were your thoughts on the 2 defensive players you lost to Denver, Greenlaw and Fonda, and how much did you try to potentially retain those 2 guys?
Oh, it was tough. Those are 2 players. First of all, just 2 great players that have helped us a ton. 2 great people, 2 of my favorite guys just to work with in my career. So it was really tough losing those guys, but Denver got 2 great players and 2 great people.
When Talano is healthy, what will he bring to Denver?
He's just a playmaker. The way he communicates back there, he calms all the other 10 guys down. He's really great in the secondary. He's got great anticipation, and when he's out there flying around, he makes defenses better.
Have you ever gone to visit a prospective free agent to try to retain him?
No, that was our first.
What was the thought process behind that, or why was he the first?
It just worked out that way. We would have done that in the past if it came down to it, but when you're going through the recruiting part, when he's committed to someone else, we wanted to see Dre face to face, and he happened to live in Texas, so it was a little farther. We couldn't just meet him at our facility, so John and I wanted to fly down there and talk to him and give ourselves one last chance.
Why not sign him before free agency even begins? Why wait until he's agreed to a deal with another team?
Well, we tried to. There's negotiating tactics and everything, and you're also, it's not just one player at a time. You're working 20 different things at a time. You're trying to get a backup tackle. You're trying to get a quarterback. You're working on linebackers. You're working on safeties. You're working on all these positions, and they don't just go in order like that. You're negotiating with agents, and these things happen. Sometimes you see something on Twitter, just like you guys saw, and then we still like another shot, and we took another shot, and we weren't able to get it done.
Why release Juszczyk and then bring it back 4 days later?
It was financial things. You know, we wanted to do that before free agency started. I think you guys saw how much money we got rid of. Trying to balance out how much we've spent here over the last few years, and everything comes to balance with that. And Juice was part of that. Then after all free agency left, and we saw what we had left, and what he saw was out there, then the number we came to at that time worked for us and worked for him.
Having Robert Saleh back in the building, is it any different this time around, or does it feel like he never left?
It feels like he never left. You know, we got so many people in our building that was here when Saleh was here last time. It's really great to have him back in the building. You know, just going through with this with Saleh the first time where we came in and, you know we took over our defense was ranked 32nd at that time, and having to build it through a couple of years and get it to where it was in 19, and then watching him doing it with another team for over these past 3 years, and just bringing him back, the experience he has with that, the experience we have doing that together, and I feel fortunate to get him back in our building.
What's it about DeMarcus Robinson that made you guys sign him?
Just playing against him. I mean, I earned a lot of respect for him. I've always been a fan over him since he came out of college, but really playing with the Rams these last 2 years, the style he played with, how physical he played in the run game and the pass game, and we always respected his game, and we didn't want to have to go against him anymore.
Can you play the X?
Yeah, he can play all three of the spots.
When do you expect to have Brandon Ayuk on the field?
I don't know. I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, the goal is always early. I mean, you hope to have it right away, but we're told that by his doctor and everything, there's a chance, but it's too early in the process. We'll see as we get closer to training camp what that looks like.
Will you guys? I mean, there are still some, notable free agents available. Like a guy like Calais Campbell, just for example. Are you guys done adding veteran players and just looking to the draft?
I mean, I think right now we're looking to the draft. I mean, we got 11 draft picks. I know just from a coaching standpoint and our personnel department, that's really all we're focused on right now and working at. But we're gonna try to improve our team as much as possible until week 1, and then you try to do it throughout the year.
Would you have made the moves that you did on the defensive line if the draft weren't the way it is at defensive line? I mean, are you looking at the draft and saying that we can kind of rebuild?
I mean, I think we're looking at all positions in the draft that way. I think that's something that's important that we do. And I mean, anytime and you're in the top 5 of spending for about 5 years in a row, you got to balance that out. And that's what a lot of those tough decisions were with some of those guys. I mean, we let go of some guys who can still play and who are really good dudes who we wish we still could have. But that's how this league is. I mean, that's why this league, there is a lot of parity and it balances out. And we've been fortunate to have a lot of these good players for a while. We've been fortunate to be able to re-sign a number of our players we've drafted, but you can't always do that forever. And all those decisions with the D-line, that kind of tied together with everything in the situation we're in.
When those decisions are made, do you push back at all, or do you want to know why that's necessary?
Yeah, I'm a part of it all. I mean, it's not like you're just sitting down there and all you know is coaching and blowing a whistle. I mean, you understand how the salary cap works to a degree. I don't understand algorithms and all that and things like that, but you understand how it balances out, and that's why you do have to make some tough decisions. You do that every year. That's why you can't always just swing for the fence. If you do, it's going to balance out over the years, and that's why the NFL is a pretty balanced league.
The Rams went through a similar reset maybe 2 years ago and have done well with it. I mean, is that a guide for you guys to be able to reset the financial part of it while bringing in young, especially defensive players?
I mean, that's a perfect example recently. I think Buffalo's similar to going through it. I think when we got here, we really tried to build this through the draft. And then we did most of our finances on re-signing our own players. I mean, when you look at our breakout year in 19, I mean, I think that was the second year of a third-round pick in Fred Warner. It was the third year of a fifth-round pick in George Kittle. It was the first year of a fifth-round pick in Greenlaw. And we had, I think it was the third year of a sixth-round pick in DJ Jones. We had a lot of draft guys that we were able to work with and build, and to have a lot of success. And to have success again with those players for the next 5 years means we retain most of them. And now you're sitting there and you can't keep doing that forever. And the cool thing now is we still have been able to retain some of those guys. So it's not like we cleaned everybody out. We still got a bunch of guys around here who are big-time players, who have done a lot in the past and can still continue to do a lot here in the future.
Is running back a position you'd like to address in the draft? Do you feel like you're set with McCaffrey?
I mean, I think you always hope to address it every year. I mean, yeah, of course we're set with McCaffrey, but I mean, every single year that we've gone through this, except for 2 years, we've gone through 4 running backs, and most teams do. So you always got to be prepared for that. But Christian's healthy; he's doing great. We got Isaac in there working. Was pumped to get Patrick back, and we'll see if we add someone in the draft. But you'd like to have one every year.
What did Isaac show you in his first year? Is he enough for you to been okay with letting Jordan Mason go?
Yeah, I mean, it was, didn't want to let Jordan Mason go either. Jordan's a very, very good player, but it was just with the price and the backfield and where that was going with everything. We and having to tender him as a 2, knowing he would get taken, and where that price went, we had to do that financially. But Isaac, I mean, what you guys saw last year, Isaac's a big play guy who can run hard. I was impressed as a rookie just how tough he competed, how hard he ran. He ran harder as the year went, which is a very good sign for guys, because if you run less hard as the year goes, you're probably not going to be running it too much in the future. So I was impressed with the mentality he had. He's going to find a way to take care of his body so he can, stay healthy and get through an NFL season. But I think the future's bright for him, and he should continue going in the right direction.
There's so many offenses that are kind of run a lot of what you do in the NFL. What's your process in the off season for trying to figure out the next thing to do? Like, do you have a process for just where you want the offense to go that might be a little bit of a new wrinkle from year to year?
Yeah, I always try to do that. I always try to study offenses and what people are doing, what we're doing. But most of creativity or stuff that you come up with has to do with not just making stuff up. It has to do with thinking about how to use your players. So when you get certain guys or you get a different guy, it intrigues you a different way. And like when we got Christian, that opened up a lot of stuff. Having George over the years has opened up a lot of stuff. Having a player like Debo adds new ideas and things like that. And we'll see when we go in this draft what that can do. But you always got to try to stay ahead of the game. But you don't just do that with just drawing plays in a napkin. You do that with good players and thinking how to balance them out.
Well, along those lines, do you do that when you look at guys in the draft, whatever the position is, like, oh, this is how we could use it?
Always, yeah. When you look at a guy, you understand their height, weight, and speed and what their talent possibly could be, but if you don't have a plan on how to use them, it's a lot more risky drafting a guy.
Are you looking for somebody, I don't want to say like Debo, but somebody like Debo in the sense that is a little bit different than, Ayuk is? I mean, you want a creative player on the other side there.
I mean, you want a difference maker, however that is, and Debo is a difference maker. He had his own way of doing that, which is different than most receivers. But it's not like we were going for saying, hey, we need a guy just like Debo. Well, we're just in the second round, and we want to take the best playmaker possible that we feel can fit in our offense. And you got ideas how to use people differently, but it doesn't mean you have to use someone a certain way. And when you get a guy like Debo, you want to use the skill set as good as you can, and I felt like we did that. And Debo gave us a chance to do that. He was a unique player who was really fun to have, and someone I definitely didn't want to lose. But you go into the draft, and we'd love to get someone like Debo, but Debo's very unique. So you just see who's there, and you try to get the best player you can, and whatever his skill set is, it's up to us coaches to find a way to use that.
You mentioned that you knew this was coming, the guys leaving and stuff. Obviously, part of that is you can only run it back so many times with the guys you have. But when you decide that Purdy's the guy you want as your quarterback, how much does that then influence? There's going to come a reckoning at some point. We're going to have to clear out space for that too.
Oh, I think that's definitely the deal. And that was one of our reasons why, we traded up to go get a rookie quarterback 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that was. We knew we had a roster who we thought we could compete with for a while, and we thought we were going to be at the back of the first round for a few years with those draft picks. So we thought in order to maintain that roster, if we could get a rookie quarterback, we'd be able to pull that off. And we obviously did that, trading up. We got very fortunate in being able to pull off that plan with Brock, but that's kind of allowed us to keep this team for a while. And when you look at teams who, and I believe we're in the top 5 spending the last 5 years. But if you look at the other 9 teams in the top 10, all of them have paid a quarterback. So that shows us whether we had paid a quarterback or not, we still were up there too much. This is why we've been able to pay all our own guys and really retain most of our own people. And adding the quarterback part makes it that much harder, but it was something we're going to have to do anyway.
Given that, how certain do you have to be that the quarterback is the guy that you want for such a long time?
You need to be certain on that. Yeah, I mean, you pay a quarterback, and if that's not what you're certain about, then it's not going to be very fun after that.
You've had some prolonged negotiations and holdouts the last couple of years. Are you prepared for a potential holdout at the quarterback position?
I hope not, and I know Brock doesn't want to do that. We don't want to do that. I mean, no one wants to do that, but these are negotiations that go on between agents and our organization, and it's over a lot of money and stuff. Those aren't just things that you just knock out right away. But I believe that we will. I hope that we do, and hopefully it won't come in any football stuff.
Burford, because of the injuries, was playing tackle at the end. Are you looking at it more as a swing tackle now, or still a guard?
He's capable of playing really all the positions. So it's really where he can help us out the most, where he can get the most comfortable at. I think as he's showed us, especially his rookie year, he has starting ability at guard. We believe he has that at tackle too, and it's really where he's just going to balance out the most, and where he can come in and compete and give himself a chance to possibly earn a starting spot, but also to possibly be a swing tackle or anything, because he's got that type of ability.
How would you assess Jake Rendell's play last week?
I thought Jake played well. When you study centers throughout the league and things like that, and you watch all these guys, I think Jake's up there when it comes to his pass protection. A lot of these guys get mismatched against head of noses and some of the D tackles they got to go against. I think Jake does protection as good as anyone in this league, and I think he's always been a very good run player for us too.
Will Tennessee factor in at all? Will there be any sort of competition at that spot?
I don't really look at it going in as Jake's competing. I think Jake's played at a pretty high level. I think our whole line has. It's going to be hard losing Banks. It's really hard losing Jalen Moore, who's been a great swing tackle, who's got to play a lot with Trent being down half of last year. So those are the things that we got to really look to replace. And getting Hennessy there at the end of the year, we've always loved him at center. He's been a very good guard. We do have an open spot with some open competition there, but we'll see how all that plans out. That going into this season, going into OTAs, going into training camp, I do feel there will be as much competition on our team for starting spots as there has been in a while, especially on defense. But we kind of want to create that everywhere. We haven't had that for a while. We've gone into drafts these last few years, not as much last year, but especially the 2 years prior, to where you look at our board and it's like, man, we don't really have to find a starter anywhere. You got to find depth, because quickly they're a starter with an injury. I remember going into 3 years ago and felt the only starting position we could find was a kicker, because we were so solidified. And it really isn't that way this year. So we're going to go into this draft, hopefully add 11 people. We'll see how that plans out, add them into our OTAs, and hopefully we'll have some really good competition come training camp.
So left guard would be Zakel, Barch, and maybe Hennessy all kind of working in at that spot.
Yep.
And what about kicker? I mean, will you bring in a veteran kicker to compete with Moody?
Yeah, we're going to bring someone else in. I know we were going to go out and sign a guy right away in free agency, but I know Brant and Colt are looking into some kickers throughout all these kicking camps, throughout the colleges and stuff. But we'd more likely like to add in a veteran and hopefully get him in here after draft time.
How would that competition happen? Would it be? I mean, Jake's a pretty good practice kicker, but how do you create that pressure that maybe he hasn't done the best in?
You have him compete every day in practice. You get the preseason games, and that's about all you can do. But I think when you bring in a guy and you make it serious competition, which it will be, and he knows he's got to beat a veteran kicker out, as long as we bring in a guy who's capable of taking that job and Jake respects him, and that's what puts pressure on him, because you got to respect the guy you're going against, and he does have to beat him out in practice. Yeah, the games will happen once the season starts, but the preseason will be there, and when your job's on the line doing something, going against someone who's talented, you do feel that pressure, and I do believe if you can overcome that and beat out a capable guy, then that'll show us he's ready for the season.
Would you sign that guy after the draft, do you think?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah.
Where is Mitch at health-wise?
He's doing good. Just talking to him. He was around the facility a few weeks ago. He's been got to see Brant, meet the new special teams coaches. But they say he checked out fine, so he's doing real good right now.
Kyle, I was going to ask you, I know you already answered it, but about Greenlaw and Fonga, what the Broncos are getting, and I want to ask you about your dad too.
You guys got two awesome players, man. The way they play is as inspiring as anything, and they're as two cool people as it gets.
And then your dad means so much to Broncos fans. We know that the Hall of Fame is coming. I guess how excited are you about that prospect when it happens, and how frustrated are you that it hasn't happened yet?
I don't want to upset anybody, so I'm not too frustrated. I think it's a matter of time, so this stuff's got to pan out. I know there's a number of good coaches there in line. I think they're all up against it. I think they'll all get in eventually. We can sit here and be upset about what order it goes in or whatever, but I know he deserves it. I know a few other people do too, and I hope they all get in sooner than later.
Kyle, speaking of coaches and experience, how does a coach evolve? Obviously, you've seen it from your father's level. How does a coach get better in terms of strengthening their weak areas or issues that they have to address?
That's every season you compete and you go against different things. Every Sunday, there's a different game. There's a different way to win. There's a different way to lose. You have different injuries every week. You got to deal with different situations. You have all these thoughts and stuff going in, how you're going to deal with them, then you get to go through it. And not every way is right. Something you do right one week might be wrong the next week. So it's constantly evolving. You got to always study. You got to always evaluate yourself, evaluate the people around you. It's never set in stone on anything that you do, and so you constantly got to work, and you can never relax.
What kind of player are the Colts getting into Harris for?
They're getting a hell of a player. Mooney was awesome for us. Loved having him. I know he went through a lot of stuff this year, and I was really impressed and earned a lot of respect how he handled himself. I think it'll be good for him to get a new start, a fresh start, especially some of the stuff he went through this year. And just like some of these other guys have been talking about, you guys got a really good person and a very talented corner. I do. I think he showed splashes of that last year. He plays to our style. He loves to run and hit. I think he got a taste of that last year. I think we all did. And now I think he's just working on his body, trying to improve so he can stay healthy and play the way that he does through a 17-game season. But he's shown that potential, and we'll bring in some competition here in the draft, hopefully. We got some younger guys and not many that haven't played, but there's going to be a lot of open spots there. And I think we got some hungry guys who are excited to earn it.
Where does Bethune fit in there? It seemed like he played a lot of middle linebacker last off-season. Is he in the mix for the outside spots?
Yeah, he is. If you look at our group, they're all in the mix, and I thought Tatum did a good job learning the Mike linebacker last year. But you want to know all the spots, and he's a guy who's capable of doing all those spots, and the more reps he gets, the better chance he'll have.
Is that the best way to do it, to learn middle linebacker, and then the others become a little bit more easy because you...
Yeah, and I don't think everyone can play Mike linebacker. It's just to play the game a certain way and have to make all those calls and checks, that's for some people and it's not for others. So you don't want to put everyone in that position, but it is important. It's just like center almost. And there's a lot of stuff you got to deal with, and you got to make sure that you have a few people on the team who can do it. We've been very fortunate on how healthy Fred stayed and the way he plays, that we haven't had to worry about that too much, but it is a big deal when that Mike changes.
For so long, you guys have valued the defensive line so much, put a bunch of resources into it. I'm guessing the last couple of years hasn't been what you envisioned. Why do you think you haven't been able to kind of, get that right here in the last couple of years?
I think when you have, I think we all got a little spoiled in 19 when you have one of the best D-lines in the history of football. That's very hard to maintain. I thought we've done a good job of having a very good D-line for a number of years, but to keep it at that level isn't the most realistic, and that is our goal. That's what we believe in. That's what we believe, wholeheartedly, John and I both. What helped him win a Super Bowl when he played and what's got us close, to me, always starts with the D-line, and that's something that we've tried to maintain. Always having a great player like Nick helps. That's something we're always looking to build, and when you can't have it that way, we're going to still be working to try to find and get it that way.
Involved in all the decisions that you guys have made during free agency?
We talk about everything, so whatever, and we discuss this with all the coaches. I discuss it with the coordinators more than anything, so that was one of the main reasons, or most excited reasons, for me to get Robert back. I know how good of X's and O's he is, and how well he just runs his side of the ball. But going through this with Robert once before, where we really had to build it and change things up and add things and take things away, I went through it with him once before, and we did a pretty good job at it, and we learned a lot going through it, and he's only learned that much more having to do it again on another staff. So having his experience with that and the experience we both have going through it together, it's made it a lot more comfortable for me just being able to use his expertise because we've both done it before.
When you're talking to Robert, how high up on the list of fixes is the run defense, and how much that slid last year?
A lot. I mean, I think it was for all of us, and our run defense was tough, and especially as the end of the year went, losing some of those D linemen, it hurt us. Losing Hargrave hurt us a lot more than people realize. Not having Trey throughout the whole year hurt us. The linebackers that replaced him hurt us. So that's something that we knew we were thin at going into the year. Then we had a couple injuries that made it harder to not hold on. We were kind of holding on, and that's why we feel we're somewhat starting over with it. I mean, you had a guy like Nick, you have a guy like Fred. You still have some really good players in there, but we do have to hit on some of these draft picks. We got to add in some youth, and we got to change it up a little bit.
And I remember in 17 and 18, before you were really loaded up with players, the one thing the defense was good at was run defense. How much of that is a testament to Robert schematically? How good is he against the run?
I mean, Robert's gonna. It's not necessarily how. If you have good players and you have a good scheme, you should be good against the run, and so that's where you try to make it. When you lose players or someone's getting after your scheme, how do you adjust it? And I think the experience that Robert's had, he's had to do that over the years. That's stuff that we had to do last year where we knew we were banged up and we had to do some different things, and when we did some different things, it was hit or miss. You get a few guys out of a gap, it works for a little bit, but you're being a little more risky than usual, and now they break a 60-yarder, and now your run stats are completely messed up. So that's stuff that Robert's gone through a bunch. He's done it in New York, he's done it here, and you always want to be able to add it and fix it with personnel. But when you can't fix it with personnel right away, you got to do it with scheme, and Robert's been successful doing that with both.
If Saleh were to get a head coaching job after this year, it'd probably be a good sign for what he did for defense. But what kind of conversations do you have to have with him about that? Just given the fact that you've been through so many coordinators the last few years.
I mean, you understand that's his ultimate goal, and that is for almost every coach. So, I mean, if we had a hell of a year and we lost Saleh to another team, I'd be happy for him, disappointed for us, but I think that would mean we were doing some pretty good things too. So that's something you got to be prepared for in this league. We are in offense, we are in defense, you got to be on special teams, and it's something everyone has got to deal with.
Like how you have to scale back some salaries of free agents while remaining competitive like you guys have done it. Is that done by feel, or is there more method to that process?
Done by what?
Like when you have to scale back some of the roster and cut some salaries,
yeah.
Like you guys have done it while remaining competitive, like is that process, done by feel, or is that more like a method to it?
I mean, both. I mean, there's a lot of numbers involved, and they're all connected. And it's easiest for me when it's just salary cap math over 1 year. I can do addition and subtraction. But when you have to do signing bonuses with other years, and when it accelerates to a certain year and all those different things, it can get very complicated. And that's why we got a lot of smart people who work on that. So we knew this was coming. There are certain things that we decided on last year to try to make it a little less going into this year. But we knew it would be big this year, and it's just part of it. I'm not enjoying it, but it's something we're going to get through, and I think we'll come out on the good end here in the long run.
Does it lower your expectations? Like a year ago, we were talking to you, everybody's thinking Super Bowl. When you have to go through that kind of off season, does it lower your expectations?
I don't think it's about lowering expectations. It's about it's kind of the position your team's in. And we lost the Super Bowl in overtime before last year. That's all anyone can think about. I mean, the off season you're not even thinking about. You're thinking about getting to week 1. And that's kind of how it was for us last year, and we took our shot. This year, we had a bad year. We didn't do good. We didn't make the playoffs. So all we're talking about is how do we get back to playing good football. And we've known we lost a number of players. But what we look at here is I don't think about necessarily the season's expectations. I think about how good we can get in the draft, how many people we can add into that. Then you try to build it throughout phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's all about practicing, getting back to just focusing on that, not focusing on trying to make up for a Super Bowl loss, try to make up for anything. It's about becoming the best football team you can be and nothing else. And when I do believe we get to week 1, I believe everyone in our building will be confident that we can win that Sunday. And I believe we'll be that the next week. And that's the goal for me, to try to practice and build a team where we genuinely believe every Sunday we have a chance to win. And if you can do that 1 week at a time, then you never know where it ends up. That's how we felt going into 19. That's how we felt going into 18. Some seasons are better than others, but just because you aren't on paper always picked that way doesn't mean you sit there and be like, all right, this year's going to be different. No. want to get to work more now than I probably have in a long time. I can't wait till our players get back. I feel like we've been away from them too long. Having all January off was different. It was nice to get a little bit more rest, but I know we're itching more to get back to phase one. I think we'll have a hell of a turnout with all of our guys, just talking to them. And we're ready to get back to work and find a way that we can go into week one confident as hell that we can win that game.
Kyle, defensive line, do you see an obvious starter on the D-line right now on this, as the roster is currently constructed besides Bosa?
Yeah, I do. See an obvious one. See a couple obvious ones. But it's so obvious, I'll let you figure them out.
Okay. Just give me a hint.
No. There's only a few, so you should be able to guess. And there's 4 spots.
You mentioned having more competition this offseason than you've had in a while. Do your assistant coaches have to take a different approach too? I mean, is that aspect of the team going to be different as well? Given that you're going to have a lot of young players in, I mean, do they have to sort of kind of start from scratch almost?
To a degree. I mean, your team turns over a lot anyway, so every year we start from scratch in how we teach. But I do think it's a little different that, like, our standard's been set by we've had so many players who have owned those spots for a while. And so some rookies come in and they just sit back and watch those guys and they learn the standard to where I don't feel we have as many guys as we have in the past, where we got to re-show that standard to all the rookies who came in last year, all the rookies we're adding this year. We have guys who know how to work the right way, and football means everything to them. But half of our team hasn't seen that. And so I think it's important that we still go out and prove that to each other every single day, starting in phase one. Where in years past, it's, all right, man, that last game was a tough one. Like, let's get to OTAs, let's make sure everyone's healthy, and let's get to training camp to start going. Where I don't look at it that way. We have too many guys who don't know what we've been through over these last 5-8 years. And we got to show them that in phase one and how we work and how we go about things and really reestablish the hard work that we earned when we came into this.
All right, guys, we're gonna roll. Are you able to step away a little bit more? Can you delegate more than you have in the past few years?
I think, yeah, with Saleh and all our coaches, like the offensive staff I've been around these guys for a while. Clay Kubiak is as good as it gets. I mean, Chris Furster has always been the most important guy to have. Having a guy like Brian Fleury, who we just gave him the title of run game coordinator, which he's been doing for a couple years, but just so everyone can realize what he's been doing. I have an awesome group of guys that I can delegate a lot. I have to. And the only way you can do that is if guys know what you want and they're trained to do it. And I feel we got as good of a staff as we've ever had, so I feel very fortunate in those times.
All right, guys.